I gotta ask the obvious. Why so long? Why did it take so long to kind of like for this point to happen?
There's something that Greg likes to say, and it's something I think that's common with a lot of detectives. It's not what you know, it's what you can prove. It's easy for us to point at YouTube videos in a book and say, look, I even said this, how many times does someone have to tell you that their crew did this before you believe them? But it's something else to actually put a case together that you think you can win. And you don't want a high-profile case like this. I don't think you want to swing and miss. Everybody, I think, is afraid of another O.J. Simpson situation where a high-profile case gets fumbled. So, and also, this isn't their only case. They have I know this detective has worked on other homicides, new ones in Vegas that have come up. And when you have to face the family members of someone who was just killed last week wanting answers, I get why that maybe takes precedent over something that happened a quarter of a century ago. So I suspect it almost becomes like a side case you work, this cold case. And when you have time between other cases, you chip away at it a little more and a little more. So I think that's why, but I have no idea what the catalyst was here finally at the end this week where they finally said, let's go, let's get the warrant, let's go in. So I'd be real interested in knowing like what the developments have been the last few weeks, or even the last few months, because I have no idea what led to this happening. Like, why right now?
What do you have to say to the conspiracy theorists or the naysayers that don't believe that it was Keefe, the Orlando theory, or anybody that doesn't buy the Orlando theory?
Yeah, everybody's entitled to their opinions, of course. I mean, look, his mother, Finney, thought that it was Orlando Anderson. She sued him for wrongful death before he died. Las Vegas police have been quoted in the earliest articles on this case from back in 96 and 97 stating that they were looking at Orlando Anderson as a potential suspect. Well, trying not to be too overly committal about it. And now they're looking, clearly they've shown up at his uncle's, at a house connected, allegedly to his uncle, who has been telling the story about this. I think it's very clear what Vegas police seems to think happened. So I don't know how much, unless you're going to say that everybody, all the police are wrong, all the detectives are wrong, but you. It just seems like these other conspiracy theories get weaker by the day. Kind of hard to, I think it's hard to keep, just keep denying what happened. Clearly, it was clearly Orlando Anderson that pulled the trigger, and what happens to whoever is left is that's open. Really, the only thing that's open for debate.
Now everybody wonders like what's going on with the deep dives. I remember you were like working on a few.
Yeah, I have like 3 or 4 or 5 like half done or mostly done, and then I got tied up with this Discovery series that I've been doing. So unfortunately, it's taken all my time. So the next time I have like a little break in my schedule, I want to finish them up and put them out. It's just more interesting tangential stories to do with the cases, the Biggie and Tupac cases, both of them. There are things that I always thought were interesting, but that we never had time to get into, and murder rap or unsolved. So I really, there's almost like an endless supply of side stories that I think are interesting. So I'm mostly done, or at least half done with those, but unfortunately, career and the shows that pay the rent had to take priority for now.
I understand.
Hopefully people will get help. Hopefully this will hold people over the latest developments in real life and current news.
I do want to ask you about one of the deep dive episodes. Now,
sure.
It was one of those about the Impala, about Poochie.
Mm-hmm.
The Impala was found, or something similar to that. Impala was found in a body shop that was owned by Death Row, or not.
That's right.
Or just where
it was. Yeah, it was essentially their body shop. All their cars were done there. I think they owned it. It was One Stop, I think it was called. I've been in touch with someone who used to work there at that time, and he had posted a bunch of cool photos of all the cars, Suge's cars, all the the Pyro cars, the rappers' cars, everybody involved in the circle around Death Row. That's where their cars got fixed up and customized. And I just remember going through his photos, and then all of a sudden there's this dark green mid-90s Impala with the registration still taped to the windshield, like brand new, like they bought it and immediately brought it over there. And I quizzed him on it, and he could not remember whose car that was or what it was doing there. But it's crazy to me. I mean, I can't remember what the math was on how many cars of that color there would have been in Southern California at that time, but it wasn't a lot. It wasn't the most popular color that people would get for that car. And the fact that the car that matches the make, model, and color of the shooter's car is sitting in a place where gang associates around death row had their cars fixed up, and here we are looking at a gang associate of death row as the most likely suspect, just according to Greg Kading's investigation. That's a big coincidence. But I don't know if we'll ever know. You can't see the registration on the windshield close enough to see who it was registered to, and there's no license plate yet because there was just the registration. So it's crazy though to think. I mean, what are the odds of that? I mean, it could be a coincidence, of course, but it's a pretty big one. And all of the closest people, witnesses who saw the shooting that night of Biggie, they all said it was green. It was, as I outlined in that, I think that same episode. The ones that were farther away thought it was black. It was dark at night. So
somebody said it was aqua blue or something as well. Yeah,
aqua blue or metallic green, or some version of that greenish or greenish blue color. They're under these.
It matches the whole, like, if you look at it, it matches, like, if you look at the picture of it, it matches the description exactly. Like
it matches all the descriptions, yeah. And when you add in the fact that these are under, street lights that are their own kind of tint to them, right. You can see how, depending on how the light was hitting it, what it would have looked like. And also in the dark, if you're farther away, how it would just look like a dark car and you would just think it was black.
Amazing. If only that car could talk.
Mm-hmm.
Only that garage could talk. But let me ask you this: where do you think that ended? I know it's like 20-something years later, but where do you think that car ended up? Like destroyed somewhere or sold?
I don't know. Those Impalas were really popular and collectible, so it's not like a regular just run-of-the-mill car from the mid '90s that ends up in the scrapyard. It's always possible that it's still out there. We know that, of course, the BMW that Tupac was riding in when he was shot is still there. It's at a dealership in Vegas. We know that the Suburban that Biggie was riding in when he was shot still exists. The people that own it tried to auction it off a few years ago. They didn't even know that that's the car that they had until the LAPD apparently reached out to them when they were considering reopening the case and that's when these people realized that's the car they had. And the only indication that they had that it was the car was that I think one of the seatbelts on the passenger side was ripped, and they thought maybe a bullet had done that. But they had no idea that they had the car. So my guess is that if that Impala is still out there, of course the owners probably have absolutely no idea its connection to this case.
That's interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
That's easy, amazing.
I mean, the Tupac's BMW was repaired and returned to the leasing company who repaired all the damage and sold it. And I think it was driven around privately by someone. The Suburban that Biggie was in was a rental Suburban. That too was auctioned. It was repaired. The door was replaced with the bullet holes in it, and that was sold at an auction. And people were never informed what it was. So, yeah, I think it is very possible that Impala is still on the streets by someone who is an enthusiast, likes those cars, and is maybe still driving, unless it got wrecked or just driven into the ground and someone just gave up on it and scrapped it.
Right. Jesus.
Yeah.